Welcome to The Explainer. You know, right now, earnings season is hitting the financial sector a lot like the first week of the NBA playoffs. Teams are showing up, some are completely blowing out expectations, and others are quietly grinding out these massive game-changing wins. But what we're digging into today isn't just about who made the most money, it's about exactly how they're doing it. Because we are looking at a landscape where extreme automation is delivering massive, immediate returns across the board. Make no mistake, the era of the autonomous finance engine is actually here.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 97.5%. That is the absolutely staggering percentage reduction in time for certain major commercial banking workflows that we're going to look at today. We aren't just talking about saving a few minutes here or there. We are talking about complex financial workflows that are now, essentially, running themselves nearly instantly.
And that perfectly captures our core thesis for today. The process mostly runs itself. For years, the financial sector talked a big game about digitizing processes, which, let's be honest, usually just meant turning a bunch of paper forms into PDFs on a screen. Well, we have moved entirely past that phase. We're entering a brand new era where the financial engine is truly autonomous. All right, let's look at our first proof point, scaling by acquisition. We're going to look at traditional banking through the lens of U.S. Bancorp. Think of U.S. Bancorp's recent quarter kind of like a veteran team that just added a crucial sixth man right at the trade deadline to make their playoff push look completely effortless. Looking at their second quarter results, they absolutely crushed it. Earnings per share hit $1.35, which is up a massive 22% year over year. Net revenue climbed to a record $7.71 billion, up over 10%. And check out their non-performing assets. That dropped down to $1.35 billion from $1.68 billion a year ago, meaning their credit quality is staying exceptionally solid. They blew right past Wall Street's $30.56 billion expectation and even raised their full-year guidance to over $30.71 billion. Plus, they threw in a 4% dividend bump to 54 cents a share for the next quarter.
But here is the quiet MVP of this massive quarter: $98 million. In June, U.S. Bancorp closed its acquisition of the boutique investment bank BTIG. And in its very first month alone, BTIG contributed a staggering $98 million in revenue.
So this was not one of those slow, tedious bolt-on integrations that takes years to finally show any value. This was a running start. U.S. Bancorp management actually has a goal to push capital markets revenue above 10% of their total company mix, and this acquisition just fast-tracked that entire timeline. They aren't just beating estimates, they are literally buying their way into new revenue streams and seeing instant month-one payoffs. It just perfectly illustrates our theme of immediate returns at scale.
Moving to proof point 2, scaling by algorithm. We're shifting away from traditional banking now to look at pure algorithmic scale over at the crypto giant Coinbase. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer speed of this technological transformation. If U.S. Bancorp is scaling by buying established teams, Coinbase is scaling by letting the machines write the playbook. Back in Q1 of 2025, AI-generated code made up just 5.7% of their total code base. By February, that jumped to 40%. And currently, the head of platform reported that 95 to 100% of the company's code is now written by, or at least with the help of, large language models. That is a staggering 18-month leap from single digits to essentially total AI code saturation.
To really understand the massive scale of what that means in practice, just think about this number: 1,200. Right now, Coinbase engineers are reportedly running 5 to 10 AI agents simultaneously. And because of this multi-agent setup, the work they're outputting is estimated to be the equivalent of adding roughly 1,200 additional human developers to the team. Which brings us to this very telling quote regarding recent workforce shifts. The AI didn't replace you, but it replaced the version of the team that needed you. This massive algorithmic output context lands just weeks after Coinbase cut roughly 14% of its workforce, which was about 700 jobs. The CEO framed this around building leaner, faster teams. Now, it's absolutely crucial to point out here that humans do still review every single line of code before it ships. That's a vital safety measure for regulators and for anyone holding money on the exchange. But the reality of AI eating software jobs in finance, it's no longer a subtle shift. It is happening right in front of us.
And that brings us to our final proof point, scaling by automation. We're looking at nCino and the eradication of tedious commercial lending workflows. To ground this automation in a tangible, real-world commercial banking environment, let's take a look at Connect One Bank. They're a $14 billion asset lender with 57 branches across New York, New Jersey, and Long Island. They partner with nCino since 2017, but recently they deployed 2 custom AI agents built on nCino's agentic operating system. And these agents come packed with 16 specialized skills specifically aimed at tackling commercial lending's most tedious, time-consuming tasks.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer contrast in time. We're looking at document lookup wait times for these bankers. Before this AI deployment, it took about 20 minutes to hunt down what they needed. After, roughly 30 seconds. Remember that 97.5% reduction stat from the beginning of our explainer? This is it in action. It is the literal difference between sitting and waiting through an entire television commercial break versus getting your answer in the blink of an eye.
Which leads directly to this insight from CEO Frank Sorrentino III, who said this is really about reimagining how teams work, not just speeding up the old workflow. So the crucial point here is that when your loan officers suddenly get their time back in 30-second increments instead of waiting in 20-minute chunks, well, that isn't just incremental efficiency. It fundamentally rewires their actual job description. They aren't data administrators anymore. They're freed up to be strategists and relationship builders.
So, where does all this leave us? We are standing squarely in the new finance reality.
Let's synthesize exactly what we've covered today across these 3 vastly different pillars. Under traditional banking, we saw U.S. Bancorp driving an immediate month-one return on investment from a major M&A move. Over in crypto platforms, Coinbase is operating with near 100% AI code saturation, scaling massively through algorithms. And in commercial lending, nCino is turning 20-minute administrative chores into absolute blinks of an eye. The overarching reality of today's financial sector is that extreme efficiency, automation, and machines fundamentally doing the heavy lifting are the new standard.
Finally, let's look at how this builds into tomorrow. Over at Coinbase, they've floated a directional signal that by 2030, their AI agents could match the output of 100,000 employees. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to consider. When a company's AI output matches 100,000 employees by the end of the decade, what will the human financial worker of tomorrow actually do? Will we all just be reviewers, high-level strategists, or something completely different? It's a fascinating reality to prepare for. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.